This is why I struggle with the way we do education in the world. I genuinely believe that we take very young human beings and we force them into thinking there's a structural right way to do things and conforming to a right? Most people who are like, I don't know what I'm doing, it's because they subconsciously think there's a right way. The right way for every person listening right now is to take one thing from me, two from this person, one from that, two, and it's not taking for that. That is you. There are many things that I hear from the most successful, most happy people I know, and I'm like, yep. And there's other things I'm like, nope. And This world is struggling to be comfortable in their own skin. I actually believe, here's a wild one. I've been really working on this one in the lab. I'm about to put it out to the world a little bit. I actually believe that most people know what their passion is and what would make them happy. I believe most people talk themselves out of it because they think it's silly or they can't make money. And I keep telling people, video games was not a profession when I was growing up, but most of my friends were passionate, and almost all of them, if they just stayed the course into video games, would have made more money. The kids I grew up with would have made more money being a video game podcaster than an executive at a retail company, a lawyer. Like, I think it's a pretty profound point of view, and the reason I'm still sitting with it, and I know I just put it out there, and I've subtly put it out there in the past, I really want to keep working it in my brain, observing, reading emails and comments, but there's something there that feels right to me. I think people know. They just don't want to say that I want to sing because they think they have to be Beyonce. And my point is just sing and make $53,000 a year and live under $45,000 a year costs. But then you're happy because you're fucking singing. Yes, you do not have a private plane, but guess what? Most of the people I know on earth that have a private plane are miserable. So what the fuck are we talking about here? Right? And that is why I'm passionate. One of the struggles I have is my great passion is to redefine success as being content and happy. The problem I have with that is I'm financially successful. I try to remind people, but they don't believe it, that when I was doing the entrepreneur thing in the 80s and 90s, that was bad.
Bad for you.
Yes, it was that it wasn't gonna work out. I'm a loser, I'm bad at school, right? But I was so about my art that I had to do it anyway. So I've in a weird way lived the majority of my first 25 years on earth under the context of, I don't care, I'm just gonna do me. Later, it worked out for me. One, because I had the talent, but two, it's crazy to take photos. You know, I'm taking photos. Entrepreneurs weren't cool 30 years ago. They didn't have any status in culture like that. So that worked out. If you even deem that as working out, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of negative ramifications that a pure business person like myself has that comes along with notoriety. It's not all roses. I love it because I love people. But most people don't love people. Like, I need people. Like, I love people. Look what just happened with us. I'm at a very serious conference. I just got off stage. I knew this was in the air, you know, and you came up and said, hey. I'm like, if I don't say yes right now, then I'm not gonna have time to do this. And so he's gonna be disappointed. That's literally what just happened. I was like, fuck it, let's go. We walked through the fucking rain and we're sitting here right now. But I do that at scale. Like, I like the stranger on the bus. I like, and so, you know, I was born for this era. Not because I have gift of gab or I'm an entrepreneur, but because I really, genuinely love people.
The moment I started really digging your content was when I was hearing you really swear a lot and curse a lot on stage. In Sweden, you can curse how much you want. There's no censorship here. So just go fucking nuts if you want.
I love it. I did it. As you know, but I'm only good at being me. I hit the scene in the tech business world on stage in 2007, 8, 9.
I guess people have told you not to curse.
This is a big thing. I hit the scene in 2006, 7. Stop doing that. There is no reason in 2008 to do shit you hate. I'd never spoken. I was 32 years old. I didn't even think about being a personality. The wine show took me to a different place. I'm like, what? I'm a businessman. I'm like, okay, let me.
That was right after the YouTube show started.
I do my first talk, I think in 2007 or 8, I think 2007. First time on stage. It was like, I found my home. This is why I push people to try different things. I don't know what my passion is, Gary. Good, spend the next 3 years trying stuff. Take a cooking class, go skiing, play board games, drink wine, drink bourbon, drink sake, eat strawberries, get into sneakers. Like, you're not gonna know unless you try, right? So it's a fun, everyone's so upset and disappointed they don't know their passion. And I tell them, this is the best day of your life. You get to explore for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Just do a bunch of things. And so I found my home. I was like, oh my God, I'm great at this. Like, I knew it, because I suck at a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? I know when I suck. I can't do anything. I can't even rollerblade or skateboard or ice skate or ski. Like, I know what it feels like to not be good at something, but I have very good hand-eye coordination, so I'm good at ping pong and darts. So I know good and bad. I did the stage, and I'm like, I'm good at this. And I loved it. And so I start popping off, and I'm getting booked.
Now we're in 2008, something?
Yep, 2008, 2009. And I'm getting a lot of emails before I had anybody represent my speaking saying, hey, you should stop cursing. Nobody will ever take you serious. Hey, you need to wear a suit on stage. Nobody will ever take you serious. And I just remember thinking, I don't want to be taken serious then. Like, I just don't want to do that. I'm okay with not making more money like everyone told me. Gary, you'll make so much more money speaking if you stop cursing. You fast forward 15 years later, now everyone's casual.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Last I saw somebody wear a suit today. I was like, that's nice. Like you know, I actually want to start wearing suits because I think it's like a counterculture move. You know, like, and so I'm not joking, by the way. I wore a nice suit to I wore a nice suit to a wedding 6 months ago. I'm like, this is nice. This feels nice. I'm like pocket square.
That's the way it was supposed to be. I think, you know, you were supposed to dress up. It wasn't supposed to be the normal.
And that's why I keep pushing the kids and even 50-year-olds. I'm like, you know what? What's supposed to be? What's supposed to be? Everything that's supposed to be changes anyway, right? Everything changes. Everything changes. And so you just got to be you. Going back to bring value to everybody, when I started seeing hundreds over the course of a year, not every day, 2 a day, 1 a day, 5 a day, 1 every 3 days. Just want to thank you. You read. I was this. I took this jump. I opened a restaurant for 2 years. I want you to know. And you know, when I'm reading it, I'm a bad reader too. I just want you to know, I'm about to hear like, it's a success. I just want you to know we shut down the restaurant yesterday. And I just want to tell you that I'm so happy I experienced it. And sometimes it's funny stuff. I realized it wasn't as much as what I wanted, or I'm just glad I did it for a year and I got it out of my system, or it made me realize I actually love law. I love that one.
Yeah.
It made me realize I loved being a doctor. I thought I wanted to be an artist, but after 2 years of not being a doctor and doing this artist thing, I can't wait to go back to my practice. And I'm like, this is awesome.
The grass wasn't greener.
The grass wasn't greener, or you appreciated something when you were away from it because you took it for granted. And so we just aren't curious enough. We don't explore enough. We don't draw outside the lines enough as humans. I always have all those things. And I'm very grateful for the fact that I live in a time where I can use modern technology to get out the things that I believe in, and that it's caught a lot of people's attention. For me, through my career, many times customers, rarely customers, actually it's not true, vendors, employees, a lot of people have mistakenly taken my kind interactions for weakness. The way they've been recalibrated is by action. You know, if you think I'm weak and you're gonna steal from me, when I fire you and put you in jail, you realize I'm not weak. If you're a vendor who thinks I'm weak in negotiating and I, at the last minute, buy all the product from someone else instead of you, you very quickly realized you were mistaken. I think, now that doesn't mean, in those two examples, I talked about extreme things. What's really amazing about the world is most people don't listen to the barking, they listen to the biting. And so, you know, I'm more fascinated not by your question, which is very easy to answer. People will realize that, whether this is for you or for someone else, they will realize that through action who you are. I'm more fascinated by the person that thinks invoking fear into people or barking or seemingly not being kind is a good strategy when they're incapable to execute with action on the back end. Then you just become a barking dog that everybody realizes will never bite, and then you become a doormat and people walk all over you, and you've lost twice. So I think, I think that journey of how do you act as a kind person, first, I'm not worried if people think I'm weak. First, it might be a journey for yourself to think about your own insecurity. Once you don't value people's opinions as your own validation versus whether pro or con, it gets very easy to navigate what I'm talking about. There are unlimited people who think I'm full of shit, who think I'm weak, who think I have no depth, and I'm empathetic to that. They watch one little clip of a stitch or duet on TikTok and they take what I said out of context and they've decided to make their judgment on me. That doesn't mean that's who I am. It means it's someone's perception. So I think it's a two-parted question for you. One, do you actually worry about people thinking you're weak? Once you eliminate that, everything gets easy. And then two, if you're actually talking about the substance, that's never gonna be done by words, it's gonna be done by action. The question is based on a story in my last book where a client that's currently a client of Vayner today was representing over 20% of our revenue at the time. We're a very small company. And two of our employees thought they were signed into their personal Twitter account, but they were signed into the client's account. And they tweeted something negative about a different agency that we were working with. So literally, a Fortune 500 CPG brand tweets out something negative about one of their agency partners that was written by us. That was bad. We were a little bit more loose back then and didn't have our checks and balances in place. The head of that company reached out. It was a big to-do. It was very, very bad. And called me into a Midtown New York City hotel bar to have a meeting. I come to the meeting and it was a 5-minute meeting. She sat me down and said, unless you fire the 2 employees that did this, we will fire you. So in my brain, I'm like, if this client fires us, we are actually underwater. Our expenses will outweigh our actual intake of dollars. And it took me all of 100th of a second to say to her, I understand, I really do. It makes sense, I understand the request. But unfortunately, you can decide to work with us, but you can't tell me who I fire and hire. This was a mistake. You also have the context of what pushed these employees to even do that in the first place, and I can't do that. She's like, okay, we'll speak tomorrow. Luckily for us, they didn't fire us. Super lucky now that they've become literally our largest client of revenue, but more lucky. And back to a lot of what we talked about here today, it is the single story that was the first brick of building the internal culture that is the currency of our organization. The utter shock in my organization that we didn't fire those 2 people was profound for a million reasons. Not only was it like, yeah, we fought against the client, it was that both of those employees weren't that great. It was that it was a way, I knew at the time that I was building this company forever. And I knew that I'd saved enough money in my personal bank account that I could loan the business money to get us through a year. And I knew that if I got punched in the face the next day and we got fired, that my pants would be on fire and I'd find more revenue. I also knew that there was never gonna be an opportunity, maybe quite like this, for me to show the company that I had their back at all versions, at all costs. And so I took that risk, but it wasn't a risk. It was in my heart and in my brain. They both. Because as all of you know, a lot of things don't match up that way. A lot of us have something in our head, but not in our heart, something in our heart, not in our head. If I can leave anything of positive impact on this talk today, anytime you have your heart and your brain 100% aligned on something, please stop hesitating. Because the only thing that's stopping you is your insecurity at that point. And your insecurity, your anxiety and insecurity in your body is always wrong. It's never right. And yet, a lot of you allow it to make decisions above your heart and your head. And it is the great mistake of the human being. So if you leave with anything, we talked about a lot of stuff today, but if you leave with anything, when your heart and your head agree, it's always right.
My question is, have you ever had to make a business decision that might mess up a friendship, or you were partners with someone and you became friends, and how did you deal with that, man?
So I've had a lot of them. I was in business with my dad, and I knew that I wanted to do other things, and that was insane of the thought of leaving that. My friend Charles Pearson was one of my best friends when I was running my business, and I had to fire him. And he was one of my best social friends. I had to fire him because he wasn't bringing it, and he was doing things that were taking advantage of our friendship, and he didn't think I was a meritocracy. VaynerMedia currently has a lot of family member. I have both my brother-in-laws now involved. I have tons of AJ's friends. All of them are being treated differently. If you were unable to treat business for business, your business will die. And so that's okay, because sometimes you may want to pick your friendship over that business, and that's fine. But yes, I've been in a lot of those situations, and I think that, especially with friendships, you're gonna either create cancer from the situation, or you're gonna fix the situation. You have to understand, if there's friction from your end, it's already a lost situation. Either you're gonna fire and you're gonna have to deal with that person, or break up, or whatever you're talking about, and that person's affected by it, or you're gonna eat shit and it's gonna turn into a cancer cell internally in the business and yourself, and eventually it's gonna reap its head and you're gonna have an issue. Got it? So you've already lost. You might as well get the bad part over with quickly so that the business can survive that loss. So by show of hands, how many people here make YouTube shorts every day? Raise your hand. One, two, three, four. 4 people in this room make YouTube shorts every day. Let me explain to you why this is a major opportunity. YouTube shorts. Unlike Instagram Reels, unlike TikTok, YouTube Shorts has a very unique thing that I think is gonna matter to this room. YouTube, as some of you may know, not most, because people don't think of it that way, YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world, behind Google. Now Bing with ChatGPT may start growing and we'll watch it, but YouTube. People go to YouTube to search because some people like myself learn more from audio and video than they do from written words. Cool? YouTube Shorts, if you are smart and you're making a piece of video like Instagram and TikTok, but when you name the video, you think about naming it for people that are searching, not just for a clever naming for the video. Unlike Instagram and TikTok, that YouTube short can live for a very long time. I would argue, if I'm selling homes, if I'm selling commercial real estate, if I'm selling, YouTube Shorts needs to become a major part of the place you go. How many people here are making TikToks or Instagram every day? Raise your hands. Raise it high. Okay, so in general, we have a major problem in this room. But for the people that just raised their hands, just taking the video that you're doing on Instagram and TikTok and then bringing it over to YouTube Shorts and just naming it smartly from a search perspective will disproportionately grow the opportunity of your awareness and branding. What's more concerning to me is, I don't know if this room is shy or like people didn't raise their hands, but again, going back to the opening rant, we need to outproduce a lot more than what the room just did. I will forever struggle with this conversation, and I genuinely implore everyone to get a heck of a lot more serious about this. What's happening is, my biggest fear is that a lot of people here in the next 3 to 5 years will regret not taking advantage of this era because the world will move. As a matter of fact, this is a fairly young audience, but how many people here do Google AdWords listings and run ads on Google for their listings? Please raise your hands. Again, pretty small. Jesus, I'm moving here and gonna sell homes. The opportunity is very clear. Google AdWords was a very big tactic that in the mid-2000s, early 2000s, that I would speak to in events like this, that people were not taking advantage of. It has become much more of a standard practice around the world, and a lot of people took advantage of it, but it costs a lot more to do the same thing. The thing that I'm really hyper-focused on in this room is letting and forcing and motivating people to get serious about social media content while it's so underpriced. On an everyday basis, more and more people are coming in and producing, and it throws off the supply and demand, which makes it harder to go. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I was yelling and screaming about TikTok, very few people were doing it, but everyone who did do it would get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views, because there was less people producing, but there was a lot of attention. We continue to sit in rooms like this and say, well, I can't sell my luxury homes on TikTok, and I continue to get emails every day from people who are selling their luxury homes on TikTok. The amount of people that decide about certain things like this without ever trying it is fascinating to me. To me, this is a very unique time in the history of selling stuff because of the distribution. When I go back, for the many in here that don't know my story, my dad, I was born in the USSR, I come to the US, my dad was a stock boy in a liquor store, and then he eventually owned his own small liquor store. I was very motivated by being the oldest son and wanting to build my dad's business. When I came into my dad's business full time in 1998, the business was doing $3.7 million in revenue. 5 years later, the business was doing almost $70 million in revenue. We took no investment, no credit line, no cash infusion. This hyper growth was based on one thing, which is what I've been talking to you about for the last 25 minutes, which is the following. The number one way to grow anything when it comes to business is being the best at understanding where the underpriced attention of the world is. I'm gonna say it again because I want everybody to understand this. The number one way to grow a major business, top line revenue, sales, is to understand where the underpriced attention is. In 1998 for my dad's store, that was email. When I did email marketing in 1998, 1999, 95% of the people on our newsletter opened the email. Today, if you get 30%, you're a genius. In 2000, Google AdWords came out, and I bought every wine term on Google AdWords for 5 and 10 cents a click. In 2006, when YouTube came out, I started making videos about wine when nobody was doing it. My career for the last 25 years has been buying or getting free underpriced attention on every single platform that's come out. No question, the only way outside of business development deals behind the scenes that anyone here can 2, 3, 7, 12, 15x their business is by executing an underpriced attention. The second this audience really grasps the concept of underpriced attention is the second that they will grow. The problem is underpriced attention always sits in the stuff of today. And most people, when they want to build a business, look at yesterday. And as a matter of fact, they look at tomorrow. I've had more people ask me about, Gary, should I list homes on the metaverse? Than I've had people figuring out how to make perfect content on YouTube Shorts. We are obsessed with tomorrow. We are romantic about yesterday, and most everyone does not execute in today. My obsession of this keynote and this Q&A is to get the majority of this room very focused on today. Today, the people that are being affected by information to make a decision, to consider a purchase, is predominantly happening on social media. We continue to underestimate it. We continue to politicize it. We continue to have opinions about it. But the reality is, it is the currency of attention. I'll give you another one that's very fascinating in this industry. How many people here, by show of hands, this one will surprise me, are producing content every day on LinkedIn? Very nice. Solid. For me, LinkedIn, for a lot of you, is a humongously untapped social network. LinkedIn in the last 7 to 8 years has evolved to look a lot more like Facebook than look like a place where you go and find people to hire. What's super interesting about LinkedIn is the following. The mentality of when somebody is going through their feed on LinkedIn is very different than when they're going through their link on Instagram. The psychology of who that person is, all of us are a different version of our own selves depending on what stream we're going through. Look, I come here, I talk in this setting, I'm looking at the crowd right now and trying to process what are people thinking, and the only thing that happens in my mind is what sentence can I say to get people to start making? The reason I start now with the macro is I've learned in the last decade, it has to do with insecurity. It has to do with judgment on oneself. I get it, and it's very challenging. I don't think it's easy to just, I come in and say, stop being insecure, and tomorrow you're like, I'm not insecure. But I think it starts with understanding that's why you're not posting. Number 2, I focus on the tactics. Here's a very important part for everyone if they're gonna be successful at this game. A lot of people here do not want to make video. They don't feel comfortable, which is fine. My preference is you do. Video outperforms every other medium. It's the way the world works. However, if you are not comfortable on video, please be self-aware and find your own medium. For many of you, writing, which is more this than this, is very acceptable. A photo and writing on a post is very acceptable. Audio is something very few people are doing. Literally taking your phone, hitting record on the record, and talking what you would do on video, but you don't have to be visual. For a lot of people, it means you don't have to get your lighting right, your makeup right, your outfit right. You could just literally do it as you're thinking it through in the car, the office, or in bed. But recording your thoughts on why this is a great listing and all the things you would say to a human being in an open house and putting it on recording and then just uploading the recording with a still picture is remarkably right.